Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this live event. And also, thank you to all the ones that will be watching the recording of this event. I have the pleasure to have with me Mark Hunter, one of the leading experts in the world in the sales. Was recently recognized once again as one of the top global guru in the world of sales. And, we want to discover why selling with integrity is the only way to sell. Now, before we're gonna ask Mark to introduce himself, etc., we wanna get an opportunity to get to know our audience, right? So uh, maybe you wanna tell us something about yourself. For instance, Mark is a sales professional. I'm a negotiation, but a former procurement professional. Are you working in sales? Are you working in procurement, or you're working somewhere else? Maybe you want to tell us your location. Mark is connecting out of the US. I'm connecting out of Asia, but I'm European. So let's see where the audience that is with us today is coming from, which function, which location. So this helps us to understand a bit more about um, who is with us today to exchange. Remember, this is your live event. So, I do have a lots of questions for Mark, and I would love, to get more opportunities, to learn about him. But I'm sure you have your question. We also received some question also in the events, right? When we started to, publish the event on LinkedIn, we already received some questions. So let's make sure that we get the most from this event, and that you get the opportunity to to share what you want to get about sales from today, right? So thank you very much, Simone. We have somebody in marketing that is with us. Okay, fantastic. Now, there is a bit of a delay always with the chat, so maybe we are not gonna wait too much, and let's start taking the opportunity to discover some more about our special guest from today, Mark Hunter. Okay, Mark, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Yes, I'm from the US, been in sales really my whole hey, we've all been in sales our whole lives, right? We just didn't know we were in sales. Anyway, a little bit about my background. It's been an honor for me to be able to write a number of books. My newest book, Integrity First Selling, is coming out now. But I've also written other books regarding prospecting, and more importantly, it's about a mind. And because think about sales, it really is about how you think about yourself and how you think about your customers. So your mindset really drives your sales set. But anyway, a little bit about my journey. I've been doing this for about 25 years. I travel all over the world. 2 weeks ago, I was in Asia, like you are now. I'll be in South America here in a couple of months. Been already to the Caribbean. I travel worldwide, doing a lot of speaking, speaking at conferences and major sales events. Received some awards similar to yours, and thank you so much for being such a leader in sales. And everything I do, it's just about sharing. Sales is not a solo activity. Sales is a team sport, and that's what we're going to get to do here today. Just sharing ideas, sharing strategies to help you sell more effectively.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mark. And you have it in your book. We have it in the title of the event today. Let's try to clarify maybe the fundamentals. What does it mean to sell with integrity?
Well, selling with integrity means you're putting yourself first. There's so many tools, so many ways out there that we can reach customers. And if you think about it, everybody is just being inundated with too many messages. And at the same time, the customer has options. If we really want to be effective, we have to lead with ourselves. And if you think about it, do I want to deal with somebody? Do I want to deal with a salesperson who I trust, who I have confidence in? Or do I want to deal with a salesperson I don't have? No, that's pretty obvious. I want to deal with somebody who I trust and have confidence in. This is why integrity, because what it says is it's a belief that says what I share with you is actually what's going to happen. I'm not gonna sell you something that you don't need. I'm gonna sell you a set of expectations that can't be delivered. I'm not about making my commission. I'm about helping you achieve your objectives. And that's the whole focus. It's putting the customer first.
Wow. Okay. Right. I guess that's the first message there. Putting the focus on the customer, right? Making sure that it's all about them. But how do we get the customer to engage with us? Maybe you have all the right things, but how about if they don't want to engage? So how do we get the customer to engage with
Oh,
us?
that's the hardest part of all because I have an expression that your reputation arrives before you do. Because of social media, because of the internet, it is amazing how customers can find out all about you before you reach out to them. This is why it is so important for you to establish a network of relationships, to establish a footprint on the internet, just like what we're doing here today on LinkedIn. It's a footprint, it's sharing with people. And this is so critically important. What I tell salespeople, don't think that you need to have 1,000 leads. What you want to have is you want to have maybe 20 or 25 really good leads. Now, what do I mean by leads? These are people that people that they know you, and you put your life into them. You invest in them. And what's interesting is they in turn will begin to share with other people. Too many times in sales, we think more is better. I really think less is better. Get absolutely focused, know who your ideal customer is, and just focus on those types of people. Stay tight, stay focused, create relationships, and it's amazing. Things will happen.
Well, let me clarify a point for our audience so that we get. When you say about 20 to 25 leads, are you thinking about your existing customer that will talk with other about a good URR, or you are thinking about 20 to 25 person that you're targeting that you're going to sell to them?
I'm thinking both because again, if I've sold, if we'll say I'm relatively new in sales and I've only been able to complete a couple of sales, but those customers that I have been able to help, are they telling others about me? Are they helping me become a better salesperson? So I rely on existing customers. This is why I say I never close a sale. I open a relationship. So in other words, I have those people, and then I've got these, and I'm kind of interchanging a little bit leads with prospects because again, I can get a name. I want a prospect and I want a highly qualified prospect. So this is really where I'm getting down to. I'm getting very, very tight. But what I'm able to do is I'm able to invest more time in people. And when I invest more time in people, I really understand what they are. Because my definition of sales is helping others see and achieve what they did not think was possible. Now stop and think about that. My goal is to help others see and achieve what they did not think was possible. Now, in order for me to do that, you have to trust me enough to be able to share with me what it is that you're really looking for. You have to have enough confidence in me that I'm going to help you. And I have to have the expertise to be able to ask you the right questions, to be able to help you feel confident to uncover. Because here's the whole thing. Customers today don't want to make a decision that they're going to regret later on. I call it the regret sale. And customers are very scared of making a decision. And if they're scared, they just don't buy. They just don't buy. We've all heard the line, a confused customer does not buy. This is what happens far too often because we, the salesperson, have not been clear enough in helping them feel comfortable and confident and keeping it tight, keeping it focused to where they feel that, yes, this is a safe decision for them to make. I want to buy from you.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to relate in your comment. First, I love your statement, which never close a sale, I open a relationship, right? I think that's so powerful. No, I'm trying to think, in my own no, of course, uh, when I run a business, of course, I am selling, and but uh, I'm trying to relate your comment about, making your customer, do something that they believe it was not possible.
Yeah.
Uh, in what, let's say, uh, often when I'm relating with customer, they have a business need, they want an influence in training, a negotiation training, a procurement training, and then they come to me. So help me understand a bit more this idea about, that they thought that it was not possible. What
Yes.
will be your take on that one? Let's go a bit
Yes.
deeper.
Yes. And thank you for asking. Customers like will have clients come to me and they want me to come speak. They want me to come do some training, like just like what you said. And they have an expectation of what they're looking for. They want a certain level of training and so forth. What I want to begin to get them to realize is that there's more. There's more. There's more that they can achieve. There's more than they can. Wow, I didn't realize that I could actually do this. I could do this. And what I'm focused on is not the deliverable, not the product. It's the outcome. It's the outcome. I'm working with a company right now. They're going to have the proposal today. And I'm showing them how much volume growth and profit growth they're going to be able to have from what it is that I'm going to do. And I'm sharing this because I share with them stories. It's interesting. Stories sell. Stories do a great job of selling when the customer can see themselves as being part of the story. So I will share with them today. I was working with a client very similar to you, and they felt the same way. And we were able to do this and this, and they were able to achieve that. And so by sharing a very quick story, we begin to get people to realize that, I can go further. I can achieve more. And what does that do? That creates more value for the customer. And the more value the customer sees, wow, the more they want to engage with you. And again, not just once, but again and again and again.
Hmm. Okay, right. I do agree about the power of story. And sometimes, people, just, one of the recent example was a recent episode was on storytelling. And sometimes people are afraid, says, okay, we look at a framework, you may recall, the story, kind of the 5 steps of the storytelling with the acronym story. So the one that were there at the last episode. And sometimes people, oh, storytelling, that's something that I cannot do. It's complicated, it's difficult, I'm not creative, or those kind of things. But what you're saying is that, a simple anecdote, an example from another customer, from something that happened in another category, from what competitors did or whatever, may be very uh, persuasive in making your sales.
That is so good. And it's basically I can tell you need something, but you as a customer are going to be a little bit resistant because I'm okay, wait a minute. This person's selling me. They're selling me. But if I can ask you just some questions that get you thinking and share with you a story, now you begin to believe it. And when you believe it, you're much more willing to say yes. And this is the difference that we have to understand that it's not the seller's journey, it's the buyer's journey. And I've got to get the customer to feel comfortable. When they feel comfortable, it is amazing at how they will go ahead and make a decision. And this again is why selling with integrity is so important because it allows the customer to feel like you actually care for me. You're actually listening to me. You're asking me questions that help me understand better. And if you stop and think about this, I want to run with this for just a second because we're talking about how do we get customers to engage with us. It's about asking them questions that are relevant to them, asking them questions. And with whatever they share with us, I ask them a follow-up question. I just ask them another question. I engage with them more. And when I engage with them more, then I get a conversation going. Because if all I'm doing is doing the talking, they can get that by way of a YouTube video. They can get that by way of a website. They want to have a conversation. I want to have a conversation with my customers.
Okay, so and again, I'm reflecting with you. So this kind of question that makes them thinking are the kind of question that you will end up asking during the interaction, not in the when you approach the customer by email or by LinkedIn or any other kind of mean. Those questions more since you talked about then asking follow-up question. It's not the question is something that you use both when you send an email to engage the customer and also during the one-to-one discussion.
Yes, I tell you what, I love taking the email, tying it into the phone call, tying it in the conversation. Because what I'm doing here is I'm linking everything together. I may share with you, and I love engaging with customers by way of an email. And I'll share with them, hey, did you see this, something happening in their industry or with something else, something of importance to them? And then I've got some thoughts. I'm sure you've got some thoughts. Let's grab some time to discuss this. Now, are they going to necessarily pick up the phone and call me? No, I know that. But I'm going to follow it up and I'm going to call them. And I know they may not pick up. I may have to repeat this 4, 5, 6 times. Here's something very interesting. Salespeople are always scared. I've tried to reach the customer a couple times and they haven't responded, so they must not be interested. And I say this. If you have the ability to help someone, you owe it to them to reach out to them. Let's stop and think about what that means. If you have the ability to help someone, you owe it to them to reach out to them. In other words, if you knew that I had a problem, I would want you to reach out to me. I would want you to help me because I found out later that you could have helped me. I would have been disappointed. So this is the mindset. It goes back to what I talked about earlier. This is the mindset that I have to have. And I'm going to be continuing to provide you information of value. I'm not saying buy from me, or I'm just checking in. I always kind of laugh when a salesperson sends me an email and they say, I'm just checking in to see if you're ready to buy. I didn't know I was a hotel, right? I mean, isn't that what you do at a hotel? We check into a hotel room. No. So I want to be able to just share with you information. And when I share with you information that is of value to you, it's not about my great product. It's information. You begin to see me in a different light. That's selling with integrity. And it allows me to keep that conversation going. And then you begin to realize, wait a minute, I do want to talk with him. I do want to have that conversation because he or she is putting my best interest at heart, and they're not thinking about themselves. Yeah, ultimately, I want to sell you something which is going to help me. I get that, but I see it as helping you more.
Yeah. Now, Mark, let me be extremely open. When I write to one of my customers once, twice, 3 times, and they don't reply, then after 3 times, I stop. I say, well, listen, I tried, and you are talking about 4, 5, 6 times. So, help me understand what I get wrong.
Sure. What it is, it's about giving them value, sharing with them information that they will find insightful, they will find important. This is what it's all about. We have to have this mindset. If we don't have that mindset, it doesn't work. So in other words, This is why I say I want to deal with customers who are in the same ideal customer profile. There's probably in the same, they do the same type of work, and maybe the same type of industry, geography, whatever it might be, but they're in kind of a world that's tight. So then when I find information out, I can probably use it with five or six of my prospects, 5 or 6 of my leads. And I can email that to them. And again, I'm going to continue to provide you with beneficial information that's going to help you. Now, where's the selling come into play? The selling comes into play because, first of all, until you trust me, none of my sales messages are going to resonate. You see, this is a piece regarding integrity, if you think about it. If you don't trust me and I'm trying to sell you, you are really turned off. See, so I've got to go through these steps, what I'm sharing with you in terms of information that you like, that you value. Wow, I'm glad he or she sent me that information. That's good. They may not respond. That's okay. They're seeing it and they're beginning to realize that you are different. Then what happens is I can put in that message. I can put in the, hey, we have options on this type of product or this type of service. You can put that at the bottom. Again, these are very short emails. These are very short messages. But again, it's and you know what's interesting is they're also undoubtedly going to do like what we are doing here today on LinkedIn. They're going to go out and look at your LinkedIn profile. What's your LinkedIn profile say? You know, what does your website say? No customer takes a meeting with a salesperson without first investigating who they are. This is why I say your reputation arrives before you do. It always does. So you begin to put these two pieces together, this direct piece and, so to speak, this cloud piece, you know, the internet. You begin to put those two pieces together, and then the customer says, I trust this person. I'll go ahead and contact them. Or next time they call, I'll actually answer the phone. I'll take their message. That's what selling with integrity is all about.
Wow. Now, if I may, before I continue, because what you're saying is closely related to one of the questions that we have on the list. You talked about that, the customer has to trust you. Here we have, a very bright young salesperson, Simone, that says, how can you overcome age barrier, right? When you're young, then, people may not trust you in the same way than when you have gray hairs and you have 30 or 40 years of career. So what kind of advice can we give to Simone?
Yes, age works two ways. We were kind of joking before we began the show that we're both older. We've been in sales for a number of years. So that gives us some credibility. But it can also turn off younger people. I don't want to deal with somebody old. At the same time, a younger person may say, they're not going to respect me because of my age. They just don't think I've been in sales. The key is this. Am I able to relate to the person where they're coming from? In other words, if I'm a younger person trying to sell to a more mature audience, I have to be able to put in there examples and stories that extend over a longer period of time. 5 years ago, this was happening. 10 years ago, this was happening. You begin to put into play a longer period of time. Now, you say, wait a minute, I didn't participate in that story. I know, but I'm going to share with you a report that came out 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This begins to tell the older person that the younger person has done their homework. See, this begins to say that, wait a minute, this person really isn't just new first day on the job. The questions I ask have to be framed to respect the person. You've been in this job for a number of years. I'm sure you've seen some things change. I'd be curious. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen? See, now I'm respecting the age of that person. Now, if I'm an older person talking to somebody younger, I'm going to sit there and say, yeah, I remember when I first got in and say, man, I love what I was doing, but this was a mistake that I made early on. So you share with them a little bit of a story from when you were new, when you were younger, see? And what does this do? Again, that begins to close that age gap. So it goes both ways. And I got to be prepared to do both.
Fantastic. Now, let me continue for a moment, right? I worked in procurement, for a good part of my career. And we know that sometimes, we are confronted with procurement people that only care about price. So why does a low price is the only thing that the customer is looking for?
Well, this is interesting. I contend that more discounts are given because of the lack of belief on the part of the salesperson than are given based on the demands of the customer. Here's what it comes down to. Procurement is doing their job. They are doing their job to get a lower price. And I totally respect them for doing that. And if you think about procurement, their job is to save the company money. Great. Spot on. But they also have to remember that they're buying things to satisfy their customers. In other words, they're buying things because there's somebody in the company that's looking for that. And what I have found is two things work very well. One, the procurement person, this person really wants that, and he is tough to deal with. I'm going to go ahead and let that one go. I'm going to focus my battle over here because I know I can get more money out of this person. So that's going to be one strategy. It's the what I call the stakeholder. The stakeholder, who is actually going to be the one that's going to benefit or own what it is that is being bought. The second piece is this, from a price standpoint. And I remember I had a procurement person tell me this. He said, Mark, I tell all of my buying agents that if the salesperson cannot deliver the price with eye contact, solid body language, and a strong voice, there's a discount to be had, because it means the salesperson doesn't believe in it. And he went on to say, he said, I also tell my salespeople, I also tell my buyers, just let them put the price and don't say a thing. I mean, let them, because the salesperson will sit there and put the price on the table or share the price. And then because the buyer doesn't respond, oh, well, shall we talk about some other ideas? Shall we and immediately we begin to get a price discount. See, if I'm dealing with procurement people, I have to believe in the outcome I'm going to achieve. I have to be 100% belief in the outcome I'm going to achieve. This is the mindset. And know that this is the best price you can get. Now, if procurement is going to negotiate with you, you have to be prepared to take something off the table. Because if what you do is you sit there and say, oh, I can give you a 10% discount or a 20% discount. You have now told procurement, the next time you come in, there's another discount to be had. There's another discount to be had. So you have to be prepared. And again, no sale is a one-off sale. There's always another sale. There's always another sale. So what I have to be prepared is, if I'm going to go into procurement, here's my offer. And in the offer are several things, several pieces. So if procurement says, hey, your price is too high, fine. We can lower the price. We take this out, this out, this out. Boom. There you go. And again, this gives you pricing integrity.
Fantastic. Listen, now let me move to by the way, one thing, I also want to make people aware that there are more LinkedIn Live events that are coming up. So I just want to let you know that the next one is You're Always Negotiating, especially when you're silent. Greg Williams, body language expert and negotiation expert. So Greg is also American. He was ranked number 6 in the Global Guru for Negotiation that came out last week. So I think, you want to enjoy this event. So in March, on March 10, then you will have the opportunity to connect and enjoy some more about body language with Greg. Okay.
I have known Greg for a number of years. He's excellent. I'm so glad you have him on. He is incredibly insightful. Excellent.
Absolutely. I love Greg. And we were together last year at the Global Guru Conference. And by the way, I hope, Mark, that you're going to be able to make it in October in Bangkok.
I need to be there. I need to be there.
You need to be there, exactly. Now, let me ask you one more question. I think, you happen to all the people in our audience that you talk, but things never happen. So how do we get customer to overcome the hesitancy to buy?
Yes, the hesitancy to buy stems from two things. One, they either have no intent to buy. In other words, they just had interest. They did not have intent to buy. And this is a big difference. We can have conversations with customers who are, wow, they're taking our meetings, they're taking our conversation, but they don't have intent. The questions I want to ask any person I'm talking to early on, how have you made decisions like this in the past? Because what I'm listening for is what's the process they use? Are there other people involved? Then I'm asking for, what is the reason this needs to be solved? Why do we need to, why are we sitting here? In other words, I want to understand that. And so many salespeople are afraid to ask that question. Now, I'm not afraid to ask it, because if there's not a reason, then and then the follow-up question I ask is, what's your timeline for making a decision? What is your timeline? So I got to get those pieces of information out on the table. And there's nothing wrong with asking those questions. Nothing wrong. And I love it because it begins to help me understand where the customer's coming from. Now, hesitancy. Hesitancy also occurs because they just don't see enough value. They just don't see enough value. And if you think about it, the number one competitor we face is the customer not making a decision, right? Because they haven't seen enough value. They're going to stick with what they're currently doing. So again, this comes back to me not doing a good enough job of understanding what is the critical need that you have. What is the critical problem that you're faced with? And what are the implications if you don't get it solved? I've had this many, many times where customers have said, "Oh, no, we're just going to pass." But then when you begin to say, "Wait a minute, isn't this critical to take care of the expansion of your building to be able to?" Oh, you're right. We do need to make a decision. You see, you have to link your request for them to buy. The sales proposal, the value proposition has to be linked to something that is of urgent and critical for them to solve. Because in this global economy that we have today, customers are more hesitant than ever to spend money because things change. They are like, well, I don't know what it's going to be like tomorrow, so maybe I just better wait. You have to make it absolutely easy for them, because this is the other thing. Because customers have a level of uncertainty, they're waiting until the last minute to make a decision. They are waiting as long as possible to make a decision. This is why, again, I've got to stay in the game. I've got to keep communicating with you. Because again, when they are ready to make a move, I want to make sure that I already understand what it is that you're looking for, where you're going, and we can close the sale right now.
Okay. So that's why, those two questions, why you want to make, let's say, why you want to buy now and what are your timeline for decision. These are the key indicators to understand whether they have only interest or interest and intent, right?
And a key thing with those, ask those questions early on. If you wait, and you know this, you're the negotiating expert. You ask those questions when you're in the midst of negotiation, you're going to get a different answer from the customer. But if you ask those questions early on, when it's a very relaxed state, when the customer doesn't feel pressure, you're going to get a much better answer. You're going to get a much clearer answer as to what are their real motives. And that's going to help you when you get to negotiation.
Fantastic. Perfect. Now, we are about at the end of our discussion, but there is a question from Alexander that I would like to take. So let's see. How do you deal with the clutter, the noise, and the pace at which buyer and clients are operating today? all of which leave a very small window of quality attention open. How do you ensure that the brief moment of attention you ensure actually translates into trust and action?
Great question. Thank you for asking it. This is why you have to be only selling in a very tight space, very what I call my ideal customer profile. Because again, I can't be an expert in everything, and I'm not going to be known as an expert in everything. So if I can just stay very, very tight. Two, this is why I've got to create messaging, the marketing piece out there on the cloud. I've got to have a website. I've got to be AI searchable. I've got to come up on the internet. I've got to be there. So in other words, I'm part of their thinking process while all this noise is going on. Now, again, I'm not looking to necessarily break through the noise. I got to be part of it. Now, here's the key thing, though. This is why I have to be diligent at reaching out to these people. This is where your prospecting comes into play. You have to be, okay, this person could be in the marketplace. I owe it to them. Remember, my definition of prospecting is if I have the ability to help someone, I owe it to them to reach out to them. I'm going to reach out to them. So it's a series of steps on both ways that you are doing, and you're trying to connect, and then ultimately comes together.
Fantastic. Listen, we have 2 minutes, Mark. Let me ask you one final question. How will AI change sales?
Everything. AI is changing everything because what it's doing is it's allowing information to be democratized. Everybody has access to everything. And this makes it very noisy, even more cluttered than before. And this is why I think selling with integrity is even more important, because customers have all this information. But the problem that I see is that many times they have the wrong information. And our job is now to de-educate the customer, because they may have been reading this, looking at this, and they're thinking that this is where it's at. And I have to de-educate them to bring them back. And I can only do that if I'm able to create a level of trust and confidence. So is AI going to change sales? Yes. It's going to make the customer that much smarter, that much more efficient, and it's going to open up the global marketplace that we are truly all global salespeople. And that means our reputation, this is why I love LinkedIn, is more important than ever, because our personal integrity, who we associate with, the testimonies that we have, all of the recommendations that we have are more important than ever.
Wow. Fantastic. Mark, thank you very much. Thank you to our audience for being with us and for raising questions. We could talk for hours, but we know that people have to jump into their next meeting, and thank you for being with us. Thank you for the ones that are watching the recording, and a big thank you for Mark for sharing, some great pills of insight. And I think, I have a full page of notes that I've taken from your discussion, because there were so many things, and I hope that each one of you was also able to get very concrete hints that can help you to become a better salesperson and to understand why selling with integrity is the only way to sell. By the way, let's take the opportunity to remind the people the title of your book, Mark.
Integrity First Selling. It's how to create better customers, or how to create better sales with better customers. Because when you sell with integrity, you're going to attract a better customer.
Fantastic. Very good. All the very best, Mark. Thank you very much to our audience. Look forward to reconnect the 10th of March. We are going to talk about body language with our common friends, Greg Williams. Take care. Bye-bye.